Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show. I'm your host, Dr. James A.C. Cooley, and we got a absolutely fantastic show that I believe that everybody needs to tune in, pay attention, because you know death is not pleasant, but preparing for your loved ones and anyone that uh, potentially you're going to leave behind. It's important that we make sure that we have things in place like insurance and et cetera, et cetera. We got an expert on that's going to talk about that, educate us, and make sure that we have an understanding of what all of this means. But before we even get started, I can't even do anything without talking to my executive producer and co-host. How you doing, Dr. Michelle Cooley?
I am doing great. And, this is a very important topic to learn about. People have heard of life insurance, but do they really know the ins and outs of life insurance, whether you don't have it or you do have life insurance, but there's things you need to understand about the policy or policies that you do hold. So this definitely is going to be a very informative conversation with this amazing guest.
And this young man if you got policies, he can help you understand the value of these policies and also be straight up with you. Oh, well, you might need a little bit more of this, or you might need a little bit more of that. So, whichever platform that you're watching us on, was it E360 Television, Transfer TV, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, or over 55 other live streaming network working to the show. And if you have any questions or comment, all you do is just go to the comments on which platform you're watching us on, and I promise you we'll get you an answer. But Cheryl, I can't take it more. Can you please tell our viewers and our listeners the title of the show, purpose of the show, and introduce this absolutely fantastic guest?
Yes, most definitely. So the title of today's show is Does My Life Insurance Policy Have Value? And we're having a conversation with David Kottler, known as the life insurance doctor. He's going to discuss millions of dollars found for clients in their life insurance policies, how charitable giving planning can put more money in your pocket and help your favorite charity, how many sick policies have been rescued, and get a free review of your policy. And we're going to talk about so many more with this guest. So, in his own words, David Kottler, I have helped clients generate over 100 million of cash and tax benefits over the past 12 years, utilizing my True Value Life Insurance review process. Clients need advocates for their life insurance portfolios to both bring the needed information regarding their rights and values, as well as uncovering hidden problems and resolving them. Life insurance is a complicated contract with many nuances most clients and advisors are not aware of. It is gratifying to be in a position to help such clients and enable them to meet their family and legacy goals through my work. My passion is philanthropy. There's a great need for facts and results for high net worth clients who wish to align their life goals with their hard earned wealth to enable them to understand the why component of their planning. My objectives are to collaborate with clients and my strategic relationships to produce the best results for them financially and philanthropically. I bring my legal and product expertise and the cash and other resources from my various strategic relationships to accomplish these goals. Please welcome to the show, Mr. David Kottler.
Welcome to the show, David. How you doing, my friend?
You're too kind. You called me young and a bunch of other things. So I don't know if anybody's going to believe you after this.
No, man. Remember, we all are young. Age is just a number.
Age is a number. I hear you. I hear you.
Dave, I'm so excited about this topic today because I believe that everybody need to understand the value of their life insurance, that they need life insurance if they can. And it's a certain amount in certain cases, depending on your family, who whatever, that we probably need to have that type of coverage about. So I'm excited about this. But always during the first segment, I want our viewers and our listeners to get an opportunity to know who David Kottler is. So, Dave, can you tell our viewers and our listeners where you grew up at, uh, where you from, and what made you click?
Sure, James. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, home of the Cleveland Browns, some years ago. And my dad was in the food distribution business. And so I grew up watching him. You know, it was a tough business. It's a commodity business. And a good friend of his was an attorney entrepreneur. His name was actually Howard Metzenbaum, who ultimately became the senator of Ohio. And he was a brilliant business person and attorney. I was like filing papers for him when I was 12 years old. He was forming a company called APCOA, Airport Parking Company of America. And I'm thinking, boy, I can't wait till I graduate college. I want to become an attorney. And so when I graduated college and I said to my dad, okay, Dad, I'm ready to go to law school. He said, well, that's great, son. How you getting there? And I said, oh, I guess maybe I will take a job with you if I can get one so I can put myself through school. And that's what I did. And I'm so glad that I had the chance to go to law school and of course, establish a even more wonderful and strong relationship with my dad over a couple dozen years that we worked together until he passed away. And that business, my exit out of the commodity aspect of that business was becoming one of the first 6 distributors in the country for Haagen-Dazs ice cream.
Ooh.
And that gave me a great appreciation for a lot of things. You know, number one, business could be fun. Number two, you don't need to be a commodity. Number three, hit your star to a great product or service, and people are going to talk about it. And that business grew to be a very successful business, and I became very interested in donating money to causes, Israel, Jewish causes, other things like that. And unfortunately, I made a bad business error in the early 90s and I lost that business. And so I had to pivot. I had a family and I had a law degree. I had business experience. I had a good Rolodex. And my CPA said, why don't you go into financial services? And I said, well, I don't want anything to do with investments. I don't know anything about it, but I always found life insurance to be a very fascinating product with a lot of potential. And I really would like to increase philanthropy through charitable planning. And so that's what I started doing 30 years ago. And over the past 30 years, have developed a very robust set of strategic relationships, practical experience, product experience that led me to when I started collaborating with a very prominent estate and tax attorney about 10 or 12 years ago. And after I worked out a couple of his clients' issues, he says, you know, you're like a doctor. You're like a doctor. You know how to see if the policy is sick and how to make it better. And I said, wow, I like that brand. If I use that, the life insurance doctor. And he said, go right ahead. So that's the story of how I became a life insurance doctor.
Wow. Wow. You know, you mentioned your dad. I'm sure your dad was one of your major role models coming up, but did you have any others, role models that you still think about? Hey, they made sure I stayed on the right path. They made sure that for was gaining the knowledge and experience that I'm gonna need to survive in life, they just kind of nurtured you a little bit. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. I think that so my dad was born in 1915. So he was a child of the Depression. And so a lot of my uncles were of the same age. And some of them had been in the United States for a while. And a lot of them were first or second generation immigrants. And they had to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. And, you know, my dad was driving a truck when he was 12 years old. And he didn't have the opportunity to go to school, although he would have qualified, but they didn't have the money. And so I think that hard work and working smart and watching a lot of my relatives enjoy their work and work into their 80s, because I believe this, that a lot of people retire and they start, just diminishing, because I think if you're active and you like your business and you have a passion for it, it adds so much to your life and to your keeping your mind active and learning. You brought up a great point before. So I'm a big believer that, number one, everybody we can learn from. It doesn't matter who they are, what position they're in. There's something to learn from everybody. And number two, we should always be learning every single day to try to improve ourselves and try to improve our knowledge.
I believe surrounding yourself with people, well, you're not always the smartest person in the room, gives you an opportunity to learn from others. I believe that if you are always the smartest person in the room, you're never going to learn anything.
Well, yeah, right. Because you certainly want to get constructive feedback, and you want people pushing against whatever you're saying, anyways, because that's how you grow.
Yeah, we got about a minute and a half before the first break, but I always kind of throw a wrench in this, and so David, if you had to choose one adjective to describe who you are, what adjective would that be and why?
Oh, well, I think I'm a very positive person. I think that that's something that I've been all my life. Is my wife was giving me the expression. She's from Argentina, and she said, there's flies and there's bees. Without getting too graphic, the flies were always around the problem areas, and the bees are looking for the sweet smell and honey and all that. So,
wow. Oh, that's important. You know what? We're going to take a station break right now, but when we come back, we're going to pick it up. We're going to talk to the life insurance doctor. We're really going to delve into this topic that we're talking about today. And if you want to be part of the conversation, whichever platform that you're watching us on, all you do is just go to the comments, ask any questions that you might have. I promise you, we'll get you an answer. It's your life. We'll see you shortly after the break.
I never wanna leave. Yeah, I'm right where I wanna be. We got something you and me, and I can't get rid of this feeling. Just like a magnet, we're just like a magnet. The things we have can't be taken for granted. Now I know that it has always been you. I can't help it, I'm so drawn to you. Just like a magnet, we're just like a magnet. The things we have can't be taken for granted. Now I know that it has always been you. I can't help it, I'm so drawn to you. Hey, I'm so drawn to you. I'm so drawn to you. Yeah.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? In everything that you do.
back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I got this absolutely fantastic guest here, David Kottler. And you know what? Getting a chance to understand and getting a chance to know him in the first segment, that kind of paint the picture of what's to come. And what we're talking about today is, does life insurance policy have value? And now we're getting ready to dive off into that one because we need to have an understanding of that, have an understanding of types of life insurance, and have an understanding whether we have enough, whether we need to get more. And David's going to tell you, he's just going to break it down to you because he is the life insurance doctor. So if you have any questions, all you do is just go to the comments, ask any question that you might have. I promise you we'll get you an answer. Dave, I want to delve deep into this topic right here. Why did you choose the title of the show, Does My Life Insurance Policy Have Value?
Well, I was reading something on LinkedIn and it made a lot of sense. And it said, people don't want to be educated so much as they want results. Now, there is not to say that a lot of people don't want to be educated and don't want to research things, but I'm a bottom line person. And I think most people are bottom line people, is like, is this worth my time listening to? So I hope through this show that we can explain a lot of the pitfalls that exist with life insurance, how to avoid them, how to find hidden value. A lot of people don't realize they have value in their life insurance. So we're going to get into that. And I think it's my nature, James, that I like to solve problems. And there are huge problems amongst our elder population that, they may have life insurance and they may be needing money to live on or for medication. And they are maybe not fully aware that about 20, 25 years ago, a new aspect of life insurance came into being, which was giving people that had policies that they did not want anymore or perhaps could not afford anymore, the opportunity to turn those policies into cash. And this is through a strategy called life settlement. There's been actually a lot of TV advertising on it over the past year or two. I will say this, buyer beware, because the people that are advertising are going to want to buy that policy from you at a fraction of the real value that policy has, because they're buying it for their own portfolio. Whereas if you go to a legitimate broker, that broker's interests are totally aligned with the policy owner, because the broker sort of works as a lawyer on a contingency case. A lot of people are familiar with personal injury, for example. And, most people say, well, if you got confidence in my case, I don't want to pay you a bunch of money unless you win. So that's what it means by taking it on contingency. That's what a good broker will do. And I want to share a story. We had a friend of mine, his friend's daughter's mother-in-law was diagnosed with cancer, unfortunately. And she was working at Walmart, and she had a term policy that she had. And this policy was able to be converted to a permanent policy. And the family was having a hard time putting her in the right kind of facility that could give her the type of care that she needed, because she had this brain cancer. And so they were looking for ways as to what could they do. And they had this term policy that they had literally only paid maybe $3,000 of premiums on. They had gotten it from Walmart when she retired or whatever. She had this policy. And fortunately, it had the ability to be what we call converted or switched over to a permanent policy. And the benefit, if you have a term policy that can be converted and you've had a health change. So when she got the policy, she was healthy. At this point, she had, unfortunately, a pretty short 2 or 3 year life expectancy. She had a $150,000 policy. We got her $100,000 cash on that policy. And she didn't even have to pay taxes on it because her life expectancy was relatively short. And so this enabled the family to put her where she needed to be to get the care that she had on an asset that she really didn't pay much money for. And without the knowledge that this type of thing was possible, she never would have gotten the value. She probably would have let the policy lapse because it wouldn't be converted and it wouldn't be sold. So that's one example of how I find hidden value that people might not have expected to be there. This was a life-saving situation.
It sounds like it, because a lot of policies, I had a policy, Dave, a while back, and I paid, it was a $100,000 policy, and it was a 10, 11-year policy, something like that. At the 10th year point, they sent me a letter saying that your policy will expire next month, and we're not going to renew it. Like, that was an eye opener right there.
Well, see, James, with term policies, the nature of term policies is that they're not meant to last forever, because that's why they call them term. So it could be a 5-year term, it could be a 10-year term, it could even be as long as a 30-year term. But these types of policies do not have what we call cash value in the policy. So these are the least expensive type of policies. They're appropriate for people that, if you're a young homeowner or you got children, you can't afford permanent insurance, by all means, you should buy term, because you're covering, God forbid something happens to you and your children haven't been educated, or your wife, how's she going to live if she's a widow? So any insurance is better than no insurance. And so anyways, that's term insurance. Ordinarily, if your health doesn't change and you have a term policy, the problem with term policies is that at the end of the term, whatever it was, 5-year, 10-year, 20, 30, your rates go up about 8 to 10 times as high. And here's a fact, 99.8% of term policies don't pay a death benefit. So that's why they're so cheap.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
But Dave, what you do is a lot of insurance folks, and I'm gonna tell you that I have my insurance license, property, casualty, life, and health, and all that. Kind of dormant right now, but a lot of insurance agents want to sell policies. They don't want to review policies. Why are you so passionate about? Okay, hey, yes, quite sure I want to sell them, but I want you to know what's in here first. Can you tell our audience a little bit about that?
Well, I think it's like what you alluded to earlier, James, about what messages did you get growing up? So another message besides working hard and working smart was don't waste. That's a big one growing up, when, don't, finish what's on your plate. People are starving over here, just don't waste things. And it's a waste of money. And it's a shame that people may be short of resources. So it's part of wanting people to get the value out of what they spent money on. Now, again, I don't want to keep dwelling on term. If you buy term, you can't expect most often that it's going to have any value unless you have a big health change. as I said, almost 100% of those policies don't pay a death benefit. But here's a shocking statistic, is that even the permanent type of policies that people spend money on their whole life, that they're intending to support their families and their charities, I'm going to ask you, what percentage of those policies do you think don't last until the person dies? Say a wild.
I'd probably say 50%.
You're about halfway there. 90% of policies don't last until what we call maturity. Maturity being the death of the insured. And one of the large reasons to that is because, as you said, a lot of agents, they go into business, they go out of the business, and even professionals that I deal, attorneys and CPAs, they don't really understand life insurance and understand that it is a product that has to be reviewed at least every couple Years. There's just too many moving pieces and too many things that can change. Let me share this with you. It's something I was talking with Rhonda about. She said, "Oh, well, do you have any, like, what are the 3 most common problems you see as a doctor?" So I said, let me give you a analogy from a medical point. I call it DOA. You know what DOA stands for?
Dead on arrival.
Right. So what's the D stand for? The D stands for design flaws. So the policy must be designed properly. What do I mean by design? I mean that the seller of the product should be very careful to find out through listening to the client, what is the purpose that you're trying to purchase this insurance for? And there should be a lot of clarity around that issue. So even when there's clarity, there can be problems. I had a case, there's an attorney that I've worked with for years in the Chicago area. I've helped literally dozens of his clients have their policy review. And I got on a call with one of them, and they purchased life insurance to help augment their retirement income. That's a common thing today. People will buy life insurance to help their retirement income because life insurance has wonderful tax advantages. Namely, if you can get a lot of cash inside the policy, it's going to grow tax-free. That's a big benefit to have something growing tax-free. But the second part is even better, that if you build up enough cash in the policy, you can distribute it out from the policy to yourself tax-free. Wow. So, yeah. So this can become a vehicle for building cash, and then 15, 20 years down the road, if you have sufficient cash built, start taking out tax-free distributions to help you enjoy your retirement. So these people, anyways, had bought such a policy, and they were very disappointed. Their policy was maybe 2 or 3 years old. They'd already put in $250,000 into the policy. They were funding the policy. And they were getting reports that it wasn't growing the way they thought it was. And I said, well, let me get on the phone with you and the carrier. And luckily we had somebody good from the carrier side. And I said, look, what if we make a couple changes in the design here? Because that type of policy, if the goal is to grow the cash, you want as little insurance cost as possible so that the cash can grow as much as possible. Now,
hold that thought. We got to take the station break. But
okay.
I'm going to hold that thought, but that's number 2 is what you were saying. This is so exciting. And I'm learning a whole lot. I hope you all are as well, because David is the insurance doctor and also an attorney. So, what he's talking about. If you want to be part of this conversation, all you have to do is go to the platform that you're on. Ask any question that you might have. I promise you, we'll get you an answer. It's your life, and we'll see you shortly after the break.
Still looking over your shoulder, still working on your defense. By now you think it's all over, cause you worry too much and you don't know what you'll fight against. And if you want my opinion, I'll let it take me away. Only relief is the four on the floor and the crowd that goes, oh, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, oh, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up.
Hello, I'm Dr. James J.C. Cotler from the United States of America, and I am here to just say, first of all, I'm so happy and honored to be in the Coffee Book 2023, Unified Brain Z and the other organizations. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this collection. Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you, this guest here, I'm just telling you, fantastic. We all need to have an understanding of our policy. We need to have understanding of the rules. We need to have understanding that in certain situations, circumstances, that you, if you have to, you're able to draw from your policy for the monies that you might be needing at that time. And this guy right here is an expert in identifying and helping people understand and working with them with their policies to help identify the best possible means of your policy, what it can do for you. I think everybody needs to have an appointment with this guy right here. I mean, he said he gonna tell you that he will give you a complimentary appointment just to review your policy, and you're not gonna find too many people like that that's willing to do that. Not only is he an expert in insurance, but he's an attorney. He knows what he's talking about. He knows the rules. He knows the laws. And I tell you, if you got any questions, you might want to reach out to this guy. He is going to tell you right now how you can get in touch with him. Call him, set up an appointment. And so you want to talk to David. David, can you tell? I know I'll be off a little bit. Can you tell our viewers and listeners how can they get in touch with you if they locked in on it? Like, wow, nobody ever told me that before. You know?
Well, so the website is lifeinsurancedr.com. So it's spelled out the words life insurance, DR, which is short for doctor.com. That's what Google or GoDaddy had available. They didn't have doctor. My brother said, do DR. So lifeinsurancedr.com. There's a wealth of information on there. If any of you use LinkedIn, you spell my name, David, Kottler, and you're going to find me on LinkedIn very easily. But I want to go back because I think what I want to share with you, we started talking about DOA and design. So these people were ready to turn their policy in. They were disappointed. It wasn't growing the way they thought it could grow. And I said, let me get on the phone with you and the carrier. And by getting on the phone with the carrier and having them change the design of the policy to reduce the expenses within the policy, which we could do, we literally found $250,000 of retirement income for them if they kept the policy and funded it the way it was originally intended to be. So rather than throwing away the policy and losing a certain amount of money, by getting the right advice, which led to the right design for the policy, they found $250,000 of retirement income. They were pretty happy. And that took me a half hour to do that.
Yeah, so you're also talking about a lot of other challenges that what are some of the biggest challenges that you have had when you're reviewing a policy, working with clients that over the years you have learned to resolve those because you're having multiple clients and seeing the same problem or learning from companies that have hidden agendas in these policies that the policyholder don't know anything about, but you look at it, you figure it out, and you mention that to the client and try to convince them. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So I do remember one instance where I was referred to a gentleman and he had a very large policy. I'm not going to mention the carrier names, but he had a $5 million policy. And he had been paying on that policy every year like clockwork. He was a very good businessman. And he bought a policy that was shown to be guaranteed. It had the letter A on the bottom of it. The A stood for guarantee. As long as you pay these premiums, this policy is going to be guaranteed. Well, just like in life as with anything else, you know, there's a very large universe of insurance carriers. And I will say that the vast majority are, you know, very legitimate and, you know, the rules can seem tricky, and that's why you need somebody that knows how to navigate through them. But this instance bothered me because when we went to get illustrations, we found that his premiums had gone up like 300%. And I called up the company with him. I said, hey, you know, what's going on? You know, doesn't this A represent guaranteed? These are guaranteed premiums. And I couldn't believe it. I shouldn't say this. The lady on the phone says, oh, guarantees? You know, we don't know about guarantees. So really? This is a recorded line, you know? So I Googled somebody and I found a class action attorney that had sued a couple of different insurance companies for unfair practices. And through a few phone calls and a letter saying, maybe somebody was in error. Maybe you really meant to tell us that, no, this increases shouldn't be here. And save this guy hundreds of thousands of dollars because they backed off the increases. that was an unusual situation. But it's like I was talking to somebody the other day. I says, when you go to negotiate, you got to have two hands. You got to have sugar in one, and you got to have a hammer in the other. So you better know what you're doing. Try to get everything done in a nice way, but you got to also have the ability to, you know, get the right things done for the people that you're representing.
Well, Dave, you had mentioned a little bit a few minutes ago about life settlements in a policy. What are they, and who can benefit from them?
So a life settlement is something some people think about it, or they use a sort of a misnomer or a wrong term for it, thinking it's a viatical. Viaticals were how this sort of started maybe 30 years ago, where it was for people that had a very, very short life expectancy. But a life settlement means that consumers today have the ability to sell their policy on the market, on the open market, for a variety of reasons. Now, let me first say that this is not for people that are ordinarily less than 70 years old, because the buyers are not interested in buying a policy that isn't going to pay a death benefit, sometimes even longer than 15 years. But, you know, sometimes they go up to 20 years or the low 20 years in certain circumstances. But let's say in general, you know, 15 years is a pretty good benchmark. Now, of course, we don't know how long we're going to live. Only God knows how long we're going to live. But in the process, people get their health records, and they have all kinds of experts to estimate what your life expectancy is. And if your life expectancy and the amount of premium that would have to be paid to maintain the policy until life expectancy is favorable, you can get anywhere from 10 cents to 50, 60 cents on the dollar on your policy in cash. Or in a lot of instances, we see people say, I don't need the cash right now, but I want the death benefit. I just don't want to pay the premium anymore. And so we have people that will pay the premium. They'll contract to pay the premium until that person dies. And then those benefits will go tax-free to the heirs. But the person who owned the policy saves all the money that he was paying on the premiums. And so that's very important to have that flexibility. On my website, I actually have an instant calculator that we worked out with the right algorithms. It takes a minute to utilize. So again, if you go to lifeinsurancedr.com, you'll see the button to calculate the value of your policy immediately. Bearing in mind, again, that it's for people that are 70 and older, or if you've had a health change and you've got a permanent policy. Those are settlements. And here's the crazy thing, James, is that I think I'm trying to remember the exact numbers, but here's the crazy thing, is that out of a potential $10 billion worth of policies a year, less than 1% gets settled. And then they do these exit interviews with people that let their policy lapse without getting any money for it. And they go, were you aware of this? No, if I would have been aware of that.
We got 1 minute before the break. What you mean less than 1% gets settled? Can you explain that real quick?
It's just the policies lapse. The people don't know what to do or where to go, and they don't look into a life settlement as a option.
Hold that though. We got to take a station break. It's gonna be a quick one, but we need to come back. We got a whole lot more that I want to talk.
We got all this inspiring stuff on break anyway, so that's good.
You know, so I tell you what, this is so exciting. It's informative. And I think, just like I said, if you have a policy, even if you don't, you need to get one. If you care, and I hate to say it like this, if you truly care about the loved ones that you're going to leave behind, the only thing that's certain, just like David mentioned early in the first segment, is the only thing that's certain is taxes and death.
Actually, I can help you avoid taxes. I can't avoid death.
Yeah, so we're going to take a station break. We're going to come back. We're going to pick it up. This is a fascinating conversation. And again, if you got some questions, all you have to do is just go to the platform that you're watching us on. Ask any question that you might have. I promise you we'll get you an answer. It's your life. We'll see you shortly after the break.
I've seen a smile convey I love you. I'm proud of who you are. The one that keeps us close when we're apart. Walking from the darkness of all that we've been through. It seems that there might be a way to leave behind the loneliness we've known and live again life of need.
Hello, welcome back to James Cooley Show. It's Your Life. And when I tell you that this is absolutely fantastic, yes. And, I have done over 600 shows, so I'm just telling the truth, And vision, understanding, the focus that he's trying to get us to focus on is a reality that we have to have an understanding, especially when it comes to life insurance, especially when it comes to being able to save you on taxes, being able to plot out a plan, because we're not going to be here forever. I know many of us think that, I'm going to be here forever. Got to have a plan. And this man right here, I believe, got a plan for us. We just have to be able to understand it. So that's why it's important that you reach out to him, get in touch with him, get that complimentary evaluation from him, and just understand the ins and outs of life insurance and why it's so important. And so I want to pick it up from there, Dave. You had mentioned something about saving on taxes. People can use life insurance, save taxes, sometimes tax-free. Can you delve off into that?
I'm sorry, James, what did you say?
Oh, I said you had mentioned something about your tax structure for as life insurance, and if people needed to cash in on their policies earlier than expected, that there are ways legally, which everything we do and talk about is legally, that they can do that. They just need to understand how to do it, and have the right attorney, and have the right life insurance expert. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So a lot of times, people buy larger policies for estate tax purposes. So I could give you a couple examples where people get in trouble that we've been able to help them rescue those type of situations. A lot of people that are high net worth and trying to buy large amounts of life insurance will do what we call borrow money from the bank or premium finance that policy. And over the last 2 or 3 years or 4 years, there's really been a lot of problems have come up because everybody realizes what's happened to borrowing rates over the last 3-4 years, that they just skyrocketed. So if you were borrowing money from the bank to pay your premiums and you started off at 2 or 3%, and all of a sudden you're at 7 or 8%, you're going in the hole. Because in addition to the fact that interest rates have gone up, like skyrocketed over the last 3 years or so, is that the markets have been very, what we call choppy. So they haven't been consistently great the way they were for many years. And so people, I have found themselves with literally millions of dollars, what we call underwater. They've borrowed more money than the cash that they have in their policies. And that's a big mess, because if you let a policy lapse and you owe money on that policy, you're going to get the insurance carrier is going to send a note to the IRS as what we call forgiveness of loan. So if anybody ever had a building or anything else like that, and the bank, like you got out of a loan responsibility, that is going to generate an ordinary income tax bill, which is all the more painful on top of losing your policy. So one of the strategic relationships we have is with a very large hedge fund that is believes so much in the value of cash value life insurance. And so he has raised hundreds of millions of dollars to help rescue these type of situations if the right dynamics are there. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Hey, Dave, we're
Yeah.
down to the last minute and a half of the show. A couple of things that stand out to me when we were talking is you had mentioned you have a passion for charity planning and all that type of stuff. Can you kind of explain that a little bit? And
Sure.
hopefully we'll get another show in here, because it's so many things that you
There's
can't
a lot.
cover.
There's a lot to cover. There really is. But here's the thing with charity, and I've seen this time and time again, is that the attorney will say, or somebody will say, "Nah, I'm not interested in charity, or charity's okay, but I'm not going to do anything that's going to cost my family any money." And what they don't realize is that the government, in their infinite wisdom, back in the 1960s, established the notion of charitable trusts. And by designing and utilizing these trusts properly, and life insurance as a component of that, we've demonstrated to people so many times you can make a large gift and you can create more wealth for your family. It's not going to cost you if you're going to get more money. And I know a lot of people of faith say, don't worry, whatever you give, you're going to get back. Well, here it is in real life. You're going to get it back. You don't need to wonder or I feel good spiritually, and you do. I mean, and that's so many people give from their heart. But the point I'm making is that we have done so many cases with people that didn't necessarily have any desire, but when we showed them that through this planning, for example, they could convert their IRA, which is the most heavily taxed asset you'll ever own, into a Roth IRA, which is the most favorably taxed asset you'll ever own, through the charitable planning process.
Wow.
That's
Hey,
been a very popular.
we're out of time, but we're out of time. Please tell our viewers and our listeners how they can get in touch with you and set up these appointments, because I think you guys need to do it.
Well, I have a Calendly button on my LinkedIn. There's a Calendly button on my website, which again is life insurance spelled out LIFE insurance.com. Or I'm very active on LinkedIn, so you can always connect with me on LinkedIn. I think those are probably two of the best ways to get in touch, set up a Calendly appointment. We do ask that the policy be at least $1 million or more. It makes it worth everybody's while, and that's what we want to do, is help people with this type of policy. And I look forward to helping people solve their problems and more importantly, find the value. Does my life insurance have value? If it does, we're going to help you find it.
Hey, Dave, this has been an absolute pleasure. This discussion and the information that you put out. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on the James Cooley Show. I hope we get a chance to do this again real soon. I'd like to thank Dr. Michelle Cooley for putting together absolutely wonderful show. I'd like to thank Rhonda Shear, my great friend, for referring you and getting here. Most importantly, I'd like to thank our viewers and our listeners for tuning in to the James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I want to leave you with a little token. Always, always dream big, think big, and be big at everything you do. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. It's Your Life. We'll see you then.